Final score here in the Horseshoe, it's 38-14. Ohio State takes down Penn State. That's Mick Walker. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Let's do 10 to 15 minutes here, Mick. First impressions from Ohio State 38, Jim Knowles 14.
I think you, or maybe you said it on the message board, or somebody whether on our staff said it at some point, that Ohio State can't really have a Heisman winner. It's just not going to happen anymore. And I don't know if that's true after what we saw today from number 10.
Julian Sayin was absolutely phenomenal. They beat cover 3. They beat quarters. They beat quarters deep. That's a big talking point on the internet these days. They beat man-to-man. They just beat Jim Knowles' defense, the safety-driven defense, ragged during this 38-14 win. Penn State had no answers for Ohio State. This is a veteran Penn State secondary. It hasn't been great this year, but I still think that there are NFL-level guys on this Penn State defense and in this Penn State secondary, and they looked absolutely clueless against what Ohio State threw at them. Carnell Tate had a 57-yard catch on the first drive of the second half that set up a touchdown. The second possession of the second half, Jeremiah Smith had a 57-yard reception. The two together went...
Is that good?
Yeah. The two together went 11 catches, 247 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including a circus catch on the last touchdown by Jeremiah Smith. It was a tour de force from this Ohio State passing attack. Penn State absolutely had no answers for it. Jim Knowles was in the box, searching for things to do and coming up short basically every time.
He tried everything. On that pass interference against A.J. Harris, he was lined up against Max Clare in the slot and had it manned up with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith on the outside, and Max Clare still won.
Yeah, I was super impressed with the Ohio State passing attack today. It's the best passing attack in America. Obviously, this run game still has some things to clean up, but there was some run game diversity today. I thought they ran the ball a little bit better, but it was clear that once you knew Penn State couldn't stop the passing attack, why continue to run the ball? And I think that's the big lesson here is when this team figures out that it can throw on you, it doesn't need to run the ball, and eventually it might. But until it does, it's just going to be this team passing the ball over your head.
We've talked about it. The idea, everybody likes to say you run the ball to set up the pass. Well, Ohio State passes the ball very well, and they've kind of been able to set up the run late. I mean, Bo Jackson breaks one off there at the 51-yarder down at the end of the end zone, like down towards the fourth quarter, just kind of put this one on ice completely. But, I mean, anytime you can have a quarterback finish with it, I believe he had 3 incompletions and 4 touchdowns. Anytime you can have that kind of statistical game, you're looking from a good passing attack.
I mean, let's talk about it, Mick, because we'll stay on the offense until we get over the Ohio State defense. This is an offense that scored a touchdown early, and you thought that it was going to start to be a blowout, and then Penn State comes down, and it's 10-7, and okay, you've got to go put some points on the board. They go put more points on the board at 17-7. All of a sudden, you get the ball with 2 minutes to go in the first half, and you think, okay, put some points on the board here, and the game is basically over. Penn State's going to go into the half. They're probably going to make some adjustments, but this is a team that's struggling without its head coach. You would probably think that they're going to let up a little bit in the second half. C.J. Donaldson puts the ball on the floor, man. You cannot put the ball on the grass, and that was a turnover that Ryan Day dwelled on in the postgame. He was so angry about that turnover, and he said he shouldn't be focused on one turnover in a 38-14 win over Penn State, but he just can't help it. It was a massive moment in this game. Penn State goes down and scores on a 13-yard field, and it's 17-14 at the half, and you think, okay, here we go. This is one of those weird games that Ohio State's going to have against a bad team. No, the Buckeyes came out and eviscerated Penn State in the second half. It was over the top. It was up the middle. It was however they wanted to score, they did in the second half. 21-0 in the second half. They still hold this Penn State offense under the high that somebody's allowed. That somebody scored on this Ohio State defense this year, 16 against Illinois. It was really impressive in the second half by this Ohio State offense. I can't say enough about it. I thought the run game got going a little bit in the fourth quarter, which is a good sign. I think they're going to take some things away from that.
You can put the game away if you can do that.
Yeah, and they put the game away. I like that. But, I mean, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, we cannot talk about them enough. They're not of this galaxy, Mick.
Berman and I, our colleague Jeremy Birmingham, we were talking about it on the sideline, and there was the funny debate a couple years ago on who the best wide receiver was in Carnell Tate's class. And you talk to it all. Is it Carnell Tate? Is it Zachariah Branch? Is it X, Y, and Z? And Brian Hartline was steadfast the entire cycle. Said it's Carnell Tate, and it's nobody else. And I think you saw that today. I mean, the other thing is we saw a lot of Ohio State definitely did a little bit of hey, I'm going to show you one thing, we're going to do another with motioning out a little bit of stuff. They had times where they had 3 tight ends lined up and then setting up different screens. There's obviously some diversity and some interesting twists that they have, whether it's from the off week or from just as they've been kind of holding back. They can kind of let it of sneak out throughout the rest of the season. So that'll kind of be the fascinating thing to watch as we head up to West Lafayette next week.
Yeah, I did think there was some run game diversity, Mick, until they realized that they didn't need to show it. And once they realized they didn't need to show it, they kind of put it back away a little bit. You saw some new wrinkles in the run game. You saw some new things that Ohio State's probably going to branch off from. I really liked what they did with Brandon Innes down the seam there at the beginning of the game and getting him, I believe, a 26-yard catch, I think it was. You saw Max Clare down the seam. That pass interference penalty was huge for the Buckeyes to get in scoring position. And then you saw Bennett Christian catch a touchdown pass, which for everything that there is to say about Jeremiah and Carnell, you still need other guys to step in, and I thought Bennett Christian, that's a big moment for him.
Yeah, and I think if you ask Jeremiah or Carnell, like, who would they rather catch another one or see Bennett catch one? And I imagine they would say have Bennett catch one because those guys are team first guys, and there's a lot of love for Bennett Christian on this team.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's get into the defense because this was incredible. Penn State had 55 rushing yards, Mick. 26 of them came on the opening play of the game. That is remarkable. The rest of the game they had 29 and all they wanted to do was run the ball. Ethan Grunkemeyer, it's unfair to him. I'm not going to put this on him because this is his second start in this building and it was never going to go well for him with this Penn State offense just being what it is. But man, this Ohio State defense, once it figured out Penn State and didn't give them a short field, this was really a 38-7 game. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
That fumble created the 13-yard scoring drive was not the Ohio State defense's fault for being put in that position. But, for everything that they weren't in the first half, they bucked up, they buttoned everything up, and they stepped up and got a bunch of stops in the second half. They pressured the quarterback well. Kenyatta Jackson was an animal in the pass rush. I thought Arvell Reese had maybe his best game, and that's saying something. It's just remarkable how good he is. Can't say enough about this Matt Patricia defense. And Ryan Day didn't want to make it about this in the postgame. I asked him specifically if he saw some players have a little bit extra motivation this week, and he refuted that and said no, they avoided the distractions and everything. But when this building stayed packed for the entire game, like barely anybody left.
Yeah.
And with about 5 minutes to go up on the Jumbotron, they put Jim Knowles' face up there and just let the crowd boo him. And then they put Matt Patricia on the Jumbotron and let the crowd erupt for him. And then they did it 4 times, back and forth, back and forth.
They kept escalating in sound as well. It was not something that just died off. I think that they could have kept it going for about 5 minutes.
And just allowed this crowd to boo Jim Knowles and then praise Matt Patricia. And that just kind of shows program-wide how they felt about this game. They don't have to say it. We know how they felt.
Yeah.
And so for them to come out and deliver this performance and compare that to the performance of the Penn State defense, which we knew wasn't going to be as good as people thought it might be this year. We know that. They're 3-5. But it's a really impressive performance by the Ohio State defense to stay locked in, stay ready for everything. Andy Kotelnicki in this offense threw a ton of trick plays at them, and they kind of just stayed disciplined, Mick, and I thought that was the most impressive thing.
They did. I do think Penn State found a little chink. Maybe I think Ohio State kind of fixed it. They went tempo a lot on Ohio State, and Ohio State does a good job of disguising things pre-snap. I think Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian, a lot of people have talked about that, and the different film people on Twitter talking about how it looks different than what it actually is. And when you go hurry up, it's harder to actually disguise those things. So there was a little bit of that. I think that's primarily how Penn State got their first touchdown drive, and credit to them for doing it. They did a little bit of it on that second touchdown drive as well. But other than that, I mean, like you said, go into the half, you get to talk to the team. Matt Patricia breaks everything down, and you come back out here, and it was just an onslaught from the defensive line. Kenyatta Jackson, Arvell Reese. This sack that Arvell Reese had was not only a clean, quick sack, but before it, he was just kind of bouncing around the line of scrimmage. This was not a guy that was lined up, rare, and ready to go. He kind of just did his thing, and then boom, he was gone. So
I'll tell you this. It's going to be a rough day for, I believe his name is Ben Shelton, the left tackle at Penn State. Arvell Reese comes off of the edge, and Shelton goes to put his hands on him, and he literally just swipes his hands away. Shelton barely is able to touch him. And I thought, from the angle that we had in the press box, that Davis Igbinosun was going to get home because that's who was blitzing from the second level. And he didn't even have time to get there because Arvell Reese, as an edge rusher, was already on Ethan Grunkemeyer and made the sack. It was remarkable, the speed with which they can get to the quarterback in some of these settings.
Caleb Downs' game as well.
Caleb Downs had an interception. I don't know, Mick, if I've ever seen a wider range of emotions in the span of like 5 minutes of real time than with Caleb Downs. He goes from absolutely destroying a Penn State, I believe it was a tight end, and getting targeting called on him. They wave away the targeting, and then he gets the interception to keep them off the board anyway. It was pretty crazy of the twist. He was very excited to stay in the game and be able to play against Purdue next week. He doesn't want to have to sit out for games, obviously. He's a competitor, even though Purdue probably doesn't look like much of a competition. But he wanted that, and they take away the targeting, which, to be honest, I thought was a little questionable.
I did think typically when there's a play that the Ohio State people in the building kind of don't want the fans to see because they know it's not going to go their way, they don't show it. And there was a lot of time where they did not show the targeting penalty on the screen.
Yeah. I thought it might not have went their way, but it did go their way. And Caleb Downs then gets the interception. Maybe a ball don't lie situation for Mr. Downs to get the interception. Ohio State ices the clock and moves on with a 38-14 win. That's just a quick little recap. We've got a lot of coverage over at LettermenRow.com. Austin Ward had some really good stuff and first thoughts about the Matt Patricia defense. I wrote about the Ohio State offense getting the best of Jim Knowles. Jeremy Birmingham, Mick Walker, and Alex Gleitman will have the recruiting side covered after a huge recruiting day here in the Horseshoe. And we'll have all of that over at LettermenRow.com. Go there right now, $1 for your first 7 days. It's a full week of coverage. For Mick, I'm just Spencer. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys over at LettermenRow.com.